Okay, now we can move forward. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our campus town hall, where we'll be talking today about our proposed strategic reinvestment plan. And we want to certainly thank all of you for taking the time out of your day to be here for what obviously is a very important conversation for our campus community. And in a few minutes, we'll introduce our committee and walk through our plan for this morning. But I just want to make an opening comment that, you know, we've been a university for 12 years now. And throughout that entire time as a university, we have been incredibly fortunate through the hard work of all of you and many mode. Every single year, enrollment has grown every year over 12 years. That's an unusual event in higher education across America. Our budgets have grown every year. May not have been noticeable, but it's grown every year. Sometimes small, sometimes large, but it's grown. Programs have grown and buildings have been built, and we've been extraordinarily fortunate to have the support of many people, the legislature, and the hard work of people on campus to expand the need to think whether or not our plans, our growth, is meeting the needs of the state of Utah, the expectations of our elected officials, the expectations of the citizens of the state, and our own expectations. So today we're going to be talking about a plan where we're going to pause for a moment, take a look at what we've been doing, where we've grown, and ask the question, should we be reallocating money and funds to other parts of the institution to address changes that are happening in our society and in our state. So we've been asked to do that. Actually, we've been required to do that. And so that's what we're going to do. I want to say that today's event is an opportunity where the plan that's in works right now has been in development or in conversation now for several months. The committee, as Vice President Morris will talk in a few minutes, has been working for several weeks. And so this is really the first opportunity for the planning thus far. The thinking about this reinvestment plan has been made public, so you'll see it for the first time. And we hope that you'll take the opportunity to consider what is included in the plan and then provide feedback to the committee that we'll then use to make final decisions. So I'll let Vice President Morris talk about the exact process where we go from here. But I do want to walk through what we'll be doing here today. This is our process, our agenda for this morning. So some welcome remarks. We'll do committee introductions in a second. Then we'll have a review of House Bill 265 as a refresher on what we're expected to do. We'll talk about the process that we've used, objectives for cost reduction, some of the planning for cost reduction, and then we'll get into the objectives for where we're going to reinvest the funds that have to be reallocated. Now, we expect that first part to take about maybe 30 minutes, and then after that, we'll open it up for all of you to provide comments, suggestions, recommendations, and we have 2 microphones, so we'll ask you to come down here and to just give us your name, what part of the university you're from, and then provide us your feedback, your comments, your suggestions, your recommendations. We're recording all of this and taking notes, and then based on the feedback that you provide today, it will be summarized and brought to the committee at our next meeting for consideration and revisions of the plans that we present to you today. So with that, let's go through and have the committee introduce themselves, and if they can just stand and name and maybe what your position is in the campus, that would be great. So Vice President Morris, you want to?
I'm Paul Morris. I'm the Administrative Vice President. I'm the co-chair of this committee. I've been with the institution about 12 years. This has been a challenging process in my 12 years here to try and determine how best to tackle what the legislature is asking. My role here has been enjoyable, and I'm happy to participate in this process.
And the mic just in time for me. Thanks, Paul. I'm Helen Tate. I'm the Associate Provost for Academic Success and the Dean of University College.
I am Andy Hunter. I am the Student Body President. Hi, I'm Ken Beezer, Director of Athletics.
Hi, I'm Natalie Nelson, and I'm from the General Counsel's Office, and I'm the Assistant Attorney General.
Hi, Lucia Taylor, Spanish professor and Associate Dean of the College of Humanities and Social Sciences.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Chacho. I'm the Faculty Senate President-elect and a biology professor.
Del Beatty, Vice President of Student Affairs.
Chantal Owens, Assistant Director of Institutional Planning and Budget.
Eli Bermudez, the Dean of the College of Health Sciences.
I'm Greg Esplin. I'm the Assistant Director of Human Resources.
Matt Nicodemus, I'm the Director of Institutional Effectiveness.
Good morning, Henry Walton, Assistant to the President for Government Community Relations and Interim Chief of Staff.
Thank you.
Okay, and Michael, of course, Provost, Vice President for Academic Affairs. So with that, we're going to ask Henry Walton, our Assistant to the President for Government Relations and Interim Chief of Staff, to come on up and provide a review of House Bill 265 legislation that he was involved with quite a bit representing the university during the last session. So with that, Henry.
Thank you, Michael and Paul. Good morning, everyone. As Michael said, co-chairs Morris and LaCourse asked me to provide a verbal overview of HB 265. I'm going to aim to be brief because I think at this stage in the process we're all fairly familiar with the legislation and the basics of this law. To begin, HB 265 was passed by the legislature, both bodies of the legislature, and signed into law by the governor in late March of this year. The bill obviously makes several changes to higher ed governance, but for this meeting today, I'm going to focus specifically on the reallocation elements of the bill, which is, of course, the portion that's attracted the most attention. So as it relates to Utah Tech, the bill requires creation of a strategic reinvestment plan to reallocate just over $2.55 million here at the university. The plan must be based on the following criteria: enrollment data, completion data, professional outcomes, workforce demands, program cost, and our institutional mission and role. At this point, I think I'll talk a little bit about some of the next steps and timeline that are included in the legislation. Once we complete our process here on campus, the first step is for the Utah Board of Higher Education to review this plan and approve it. We expect that to happen in early June. It needs to happen by this fiscal year, as outlined by the legislation. Once the Utah Board of Higher Education provides its blessing or approval, the next step in the process is that the plan will be presented and reviewed by the Higher Education Appropriations Subcommittee of the legislature. This is the subcommittee, the Appropriations Subcommittee, that provides oversight over higher education and provides the lion's share of the funding from the legislature to the institution. That phase in the process will occur in August. And then finally, the Executive Appropriations Committee, which is the primary budgetary committee of the legislature, will review the plan in September of this year. The bill also lays out a 3-year timeline for implementation. So in year one, which will be fiscal year 26, we need to have reallocated 30% of that $2.55 million. That equates to just over $750,000 on our campus. In year two, FY 27, we need to have reallocated 70% of those funds, which is just shy of $1.8 million. And then, of course, by year three, we need to have reallocated the full $2.55 million. One thing that's important to recognize is that these funds have already been held back by the legislature, so the $2.55 million is no longer at the institution. And if Utah Tech fails to comply with the requirements of the bill, those funds will be withheld from us, effectively making this a budget cut. However, if the Utah Board of Higher Education and those two legislative committees approve our reinvestment plan, those funds will be given back to us to reinvest on our campus. I think the only other thing I'd like to mention here is that the legislation does require that the institution create policy to effectuate or carry out the reinvestment plan. And Paul and Michael may discuss that in a little bit more detail later. I know that there will be additional detail provided on all of these points throughout the meeting, but that's a high-level overview and hopefully some helpful context into this process. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Henry. Next, we're going to ask Vice President Morris, co-chair of the committee, to come on up and talk a little bit about the process that the committee used in its deliberations, discussions, and what's next after this meeting ends today, and then talk a little bit about some of the objectives in our cost reductions and some of the planning on those cost reductions.
Thank you and good morning. Review of the current process. Well, this process really began last fall in contemplation of HB 265. It was well known that legislators were interested in this bill, and that information was out. The campuses knew it, and so planning really began last fall. And began on the academic side. And most of the plan you'll see today, or a lot of the plan you see today, originated with that initial planning that began in the fall and into January and February. The current committee was formed in mid-March, and you would have known that when you saw a UT official that we put out that gave the makeup of the committee that you see here in front of you today, and let you know how that committee would proceed. And so the committee has been meeting since mid-March, each week for fairly long meetings. The meetings have been challenging meetings, as you might guess, been full of emotion and debate, and really trying to take a hard look at what we can do on the cost-cutting side, and how we can reinvest that money in the future. But the committee started out by reviewing input that all of you gave through the strategic reinvestment form. And that input was kept confidential. In other words, if you put input into the committee, we talked about the items that you brought up, but not who provided them. So along with that, we'd encourage you to continue to give update through that form, and we'll continue to update the committee. We also request your input through the members of the committee. They represent strategic areas across the campus. Many of you will know at least one member of this committee, and you're welcome to talk to them and give them your input. This meeting we're having today was another way to gain input, to vet the plan with you and understand continued comments about this specific plan here and maybe other ideas that you might have. The committee looked at data. One of the major data elements we looked at was majors by program, including the 5-year consolidated change in enrollments and also the yearly change in enrollments. We did that for each major. And it's interesting to see the trends that that report showed and helped guide where we looked. We also looked at data provided by the budget office that was estimated annual undergraduate program revenue and cost by major. So you can get a good idea of which programs basically provide money to the institution or don't provide money to the institution based on their revenues and costs. We looked at the overall budget for the institution, including every division, all of the employees in each division, and the operational cost associated with each. We looked at a voluntary incentive severance program, and Human Resources pulled data for us that listed individuals that would qualify for a voluntary incentive program and where those individuals were, and an idea of what cost savings could occur there. The challenge we found with that one is it's not very strategic, and you don't know who might take or request that severance, and so it's very difficult to fold that into a plan to cut costs in the right areas. The input that you provided was summarized by category and provided to the committee each time we met, and so they received all of that. And then finally, the committee was given access to the Utah System of Higher Education dashboards. And there's a dashboards on our programs that show enrollments, they show job placements, they show all kinds of data. So the committee had access to that as well. So it was a pretty comprehensive look at the data, but we know that the data just informs decisions. It really doesn't help you, it helps make a decision, but it doesn't make the decision. And so a lot of input needs to go along with data, and a lot of rationale as to why data may look a certain way and may lead to a conclusion you're looking for, or may not lead to a conclusion that you're investigating. So all of that was done. Another element that you may not be aware of is the creation of policy that is required of us as well. There's a new policy that's in final stages. It's Policy 104. It's titled Strategic Reinvestment Plan. It's been created as requested in the bill, in the legislative mandates, to make it so that we can put this reinvestment plan in place. That draft will be signed by Interim President White probably in the next week or so. Let's see. Finally, this is not the final plan. There is a process here. This is the initial draft of the plan as compiled by this committee. After this committee finishes its work, the recommendations of the committee will go to the President's Cabinet, who does have an opportunity to review and vet the plan and to recommend changes to the plan that would go forth finally, at least at the institutional level, to the President. And this will be incoming President Smead, who has been updated on the committee's work periodically and has a general idea of the plan. But he will be the final approval process on the campus. At that point, he will complete and approve the final institutional plan, and that'll go to the Utah System of Higher Education, who will basically complete the same process. They're going to look at the plan. They're going to try to determine if they believe it meets the intent of the legislative bill, and they can also give us recommendations or requirements to update or change the plan before they approve it. And then final step is the plan goes to the legislature along with all of the plans from the other institutions in the state. The objective of the cost reduction plan is really spelled out in the legislative bill. It's really to reallocate resources from areas that are maybe not our strongest areas into strategic areas that will become our strongest areas and have the greatest potential for program growth, for job placements, those types of things. So that's really the purpose of the cost reduction plan, is to provide the revenues to do that. So Michael, do you want to take it back from here? Thank you. Or do you want me to go through the cost plan? All right, let's get into the cost plan. Here it is. So here you see the initial draft of the cost plan. I'll just go through the slide with you and provide some narrative. I can't see it, so I'll go to my paper copy. The first item of the list is discontinuation of the plural site contract. The main reason for that discontinuation is we have had, I think, limited value in that relationship and not a lot of use of that plural site software package and those trainings. It is a fairly large ongoing amount. It's $900,000. I think this one's been kind of out there. You probably realize this is one we would look at. So we are fortunate in that this contract can be discontinued, and it takes, I don't know, 35% or so of the $2.55 million. The next item is efficiencies in our part-time instructor budget. We referred to this over the years as the adjunct budget. It includes overloads and those types of things. We believe there's efficiencies that we can gain by reducing some of the part-time instructional budget. There are some definitions you can see alongside that number that describe how we would do that. The next one is academic staff and administration. We would eliminate the Executive Director of Strategic Partnerships positions, and we'd reallocate 2 positions in CEC to communications, digital media. The non-academic staff and administration, these are mostly vacant positions, but may include other consolidations of areas. We aren't giving as much detail here because President Smead will need to be more closely involved in the determination of these, because they do have strategic implications that we believe we need more of his input to finalize. We do have a list here, and so we do have things for him to look at and react to. The next one, program discontinuation, faculty reduction. That's the elimination of 3 total full-time faculty positions in Spanish. That position's vacant. ASL and theater. And finally, a merge of the College of Arts and the Colleges of Humanities and Social Science. This would be a discontinuation of the College of Arts Dean and administrative staff positions, discontinue academic involvement in the Celebrity Concert Series. You can see the total that we've come up here with here totals $2,729,000, and the target is $2,550,000. We are leaving a little bit of room there for the cabinet and the president to change some of these numbers and provide other recommendations. So the next slide is a little bit more, I basically went through this slide as we went, but it's a little more description of the proposed cost reductions. And you can also see on this list some other discontinuations in academic programs that I think have been in the works prior to the work of this committee. So I think with that, we've pretty well been through the cost side. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paul. All right, so let's switch over now to where we would reinvest the $2.55 million from the cost reductions. First, just a review of the expectations that we've been given from USHE. They took a look at the House Bill 265, and then USHE gave us, provided every campus with some guidelines about how we should proceed in developing our plan. So I'm just going to walk through a little bit on what the expectations are from USHE. So HB 265 requires that the institution reinvestment plan identify areas for reinvestment that include programs, courses, degrees, departments, colleges, or other divisions of the institution, operational efficiencies, and other components of instruction and administrative functions, including dean positions and other administrative positions. So we're looking at reinvesting in a wide variety of activities within academic affairs, both direct instruction as well as support services for academics. So despite the fact that cuts can come from a variety of locations, all of the reinvestment is into academic affairs. So our requirement is that we need to reinvest to advance curriculum and instructional activities that produce strong workforce outcomes and that fulfill state economic development objectives and prepare graduates with durable skills. So our reinvestments must be in operational efficiencies, and administrative return should be, any administrative return should be in direct support of instructional activities. So these are the guidelines, the objectives that we were given. Fairly general, as you can see, but they do provide a framework for us to have conversations and deliberations about where we would reinvest the funds. Oops. All right, so here's some objectives for the reinvestment of the $2.55 million. And these are based on the data that we've been provided through institutional effectiveness and budget and institutional planning internally, as well as information and data that we were supplied with from USHE, including high priority areas for investing in new programs. So I can tell you there is a list of program areas, job categories where the state would like to see us invest. Of the categories that are in the sort of top quadrant of all categories, I would guess almost half of them are in the College of Business or related to programs in the College of Business. So that's a dominant theme in the program areas, as well as engineering and computer science. So not exclusively there, but if you looked at the list of high priority programs, those dominated that list. So we're looking at increasing management and marketing undergraduate enrollment. So we have two opportunities. One is to put additional faculty positions there, but also we anticipate, we hope, within a couple of years, we will have achieved AACSB accreditation, which we believe, and I'm sure the college faculty believe, will result in increased enrollment and demand because we will be on par with every other university in the state in the College of Business. So anyway, we anticipate that that's going to happen in a couple of years. Increase undergraduate psychology enrollment and add a master's program in mental health. So there's two parts to this. We know that, and this is information that we've had for a while, that the demand for upper division psychology classes exceeds our capacity to provide courses. And so as a result, we know from data we've had, actually not just this year, but in previous years, that students do leave the university because they do not have access to the upper division courses in psychology that they need. So putting at least a position into that is an area. The second is mental health is a high priority area for the state, and this is no surprise, and I think that's been communicated in multiple channels. In fact, I'm pretty sure that just last week the Speaker of the House had a press conference talking about his desire to see monies during the reallocation process go into mental health related programs. The third area is to increase undergraduate and graduate enrollment in engineering, or the whole suite, engineering, applied AI, computer science, design. They work collaboratively in that space. And the opportunity here is that every 2 years, for many years, the state has put monies out there for campuses to request funding to support specifically engineering and computer science faculty and equipment. And so this comes up every 2 years, and we have to apply. And if we can demonstrate growth and need, then we are allocated positions. We've grown almost the entire, well, I think the entire Department of Engineering has come from these funds. What happens is that they give us half the money for a position, and we have to fund half the money on campus. So depending on how much money we are allocated this year, this round, it will determine how many positions that we're able to afford. So that's an area. Plus, I probably shouldn't be saying this in public, and I may get in trouble, but we have a high degree of confidence, I'll leave it at that, that later this summer we'll be able to announce that we are accredited by ABET. We have to wait for the final decision, but I can say that we had an incredibly successful site visit, and that's fully anticipated. And once we do that, again, like in the College of Business, we'll be on par with, from an accreditation perspective, with all the engineering programs in the state and, in fact, the country. And so we expect that at our price point with an ABET accredited program, we're going to see demand grow in that space. The other area is to increase undergraduate enrollment in digital film, animation, digital media. This is an area that we've seen growth over time. We also know that, and again, all reading the news, we know that Kevin Costner has built a film studio here in town, that there are movies that are being created. Opportunities are being increased for our students to engage in these kinds of learning experiences. We were recently received a donation of a significant piece of technology that puts us at the forefront of creating digital film and other digital media. And so these factors in combination I think are going to create an opportunity for us to grow in this space. This group of programs is also organized around a center called Creative Studios that you may or may not be familiar with. So that's an area that we believe there's going to be growth. Increased enrollment in clinical health sciences. We have challenges doing this because we do not control a student learning experience at the university completely. We can control faculty and curriculum, but we cannot control clinical training. That's limited by opportunities that are provided mainly by the hospital and other health organizations locally. So we have to wait until they allow us to have more positions. So we will need to be cautious in terms of where we allocate funds, specifically where the greatest opportunity might be to grow our clinical programs. But of course, all of our clinical programs start in a pre-professional program in population health. And so when you look at clinical health sciences, population health has to be a factor in that. So the two areas combined will be places where we want to look for reinvestment. We're going to look at a redesign of theater and dance to become a musical theater program. And that's an initiative that's been began with the faculty. And so we will see where that goes, but that will be an objective going forward. All right, merge the College of Art with the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. You probably have read the news that this is also what the Utah State University is doing. In fact, they're also adding the College of Science into the mix, bringing 3 colleges into one. We're proposing to bring 2 colleges into one here. Elevate research and innovation enterprise on campus to support instruction, faculty and student research, creative activity, and innovation. We have very much what I would consider a nascent research and innovation enterprise on campus. We've not been working on it too long, but we need to continue to grow that aspect of academic affairs for a variety of reasons, probably most importantly because it's a core characteristic of a polytechnic university to be involved with applied research, and this is an area that we need to further develop. And then lastly, expand faculty professional development programming. We haven't had a full-time person in the Center for Teaching and Learning for quite some time, and we've had to stop and reduce professional development opportunities for faculty, and so we need to re-engage that aspect of academic affairs in order to provide training opportunities. All right, with all of those objectives, here's what we're proposing to do. These are new positions. So consistent with the objectives that I've just talked about, we're proposing, 5 new faculty lines in management and marketing. We're looking at 3 new faculty lines in clinical health sciences or the Department of Health and Human Performance, where population health sits, so that would have to be determined which combinations or where exactly to put those lines. Engineering, I've spoken about that. The number of positions will be a function of how much money we're giving from USHE this year to support additional faculty lines in that space. Psychology, we talked about that, and a position in biological sciences where we're also seeing growth. We have a couple of administrative positions that are based on faculty lines. So one of them is, obviously, we need a new dean for the College of Science, Engineering, and Technology. And for us to be able to do a national search for a new dean, we have to have a faculty line to accompany the administrative funding that we already have in place. So we'll have to allocate a faculty line to that position, and where that goes will be a function of who is hired and which discipline they come from. And so that department will get the position because any dean that we hire will have retreat rights back into that department. And then the Center for Teaching and Learning, I just mentioned that we've gone for quite some time without full-time support in that space. And so that would be a faculty position with release time, 100% release time dedicated to the Center for Teaching and Learning. New staff positions that we need, one is, academic advising and CSEP. We have far more students than we have academic advisors to support, so we need a new position there. That's a high priority need at any time for the campus. And then the staff support positions, that would go to digital film, animation, digital media to support the technical aspects of operating those programs. Those staff positions would simply be a reallocation of current positions that are located in other divisions on campus, or other units in academic affairs, excuse me. New administration, as I mentioned about research and innovation, we're proposing an associate provost for research and innovation / director of Atwood Innovation Plaza. This would require a half of a position because we're already funded for the director of Atwood Innovation Plaza, so this is a half position that would be added. And then when we do the merger of arts, humanities, and social sciences, we'll need an associate dean for arts, full-time associate dean, so that's another position. And then lastly, aligned with new funding we're expecting for engineering, as well as our accreditation that will elevate the prominence of our program. We think that this may be the time and an opportunity for us to be much more aggressive in recruiting students into engineering, computer science space, which is, of course, is a high demand area for the state. So that is the plan. The last thing I'll show you is the net of all of this. So we're looking at discontinuing 3 faculty lines, one of which is vacant right now. And then in this plan calls for somewhere approximately 15 to 17 new full-time faculty lines, so the net gain is somewhere in the 12 to 14 area. We're looking at discontinuing, and this is, again, as Vice President Morris mentioned, very much going to be a function of what President Smead wants to do. As many as 10 or 11 staff and administrative positions, adding 2.5, and the net gain is minus 7.5 to 8.5 in that space. And then we've got 4 staff positions that would be reallocated from one unit to another straight across. So that's the net change on faculty, administrators, and staff positions. So with that, that concludes sort of our presentation of the plan. And what we would like to do now is to transition into the opportunity for anyone here who would like to comment, make a suggestion, an observation, whatever you would like. We're not going to be answering questions right now because we want to give as many people an opportunity to speak as possible. We are recording this. We'll be taking notes. The information that comes here today will be provided back to the committee at our next meeting on Thursday, this coming Thursday. We'll take in consideration the feedback here and anything that's provided to us in writing through the portal, and then make some final adjustments and prepare to send the plan, as Vice President Morris mentioned, to the cabinet the following week. So with that, we'd like to invite those who would like to comment to come down. We have 2 microphones at the base of the stage. We'll just go back and forth from one to the other. We'll take turns in that way. If you could just say your name, where you work on campus, and what your comment, suggestion, recommendation is, we'll record that. And if you can make it relatively brief, that would be appreciated to give more people an opportunity to speak. So with that, the microphones are open. I assume that they're on. So if someone would like to come on down and get started, we'll do that.
My name's Roger Hale. I am the department chair for the Department of Music. And I know you said not to ask questions, but I'm just wondering a time frame for this. Is July 1st when we'll merge, or is this going to be the end of year 2, going into 3? What are we looking at as far as time frame for these as divided over this 3-year period?
Well, we don't want to get into Q&A like this, but that's a simple question. I'll give a really quick, simple answer. We have 3 years to do this, and some of this would be implemented in July 1, but the legislature is not going to approve this until September. So there's a little disconnect between when we have to implement and when we get a final approval. But it is a 3-year implementation, and we'll have to make those decisions about when.
Hi, Erin O'Brien, Biology and Community Engaged Learning. I'm afraid I've got a few. So my first one is a request to release the data that you're talking about so that we can understand why decisions have been made. Some of these lists that you describe are things that I think the average person here on campus, including myself, don't even know how to find. And so in order to make sense of this and to understand why decisions were made, I think we need the data. I think we also probably need to know what the original plan was and how it's been changed in response to feedback. Because I'm not sure that I see a lot of the feedback that I've heard about reflected in this plan. And so I'd like to better understand that. And I think everybody else here on campus would as well. And then lastly, I'm a little worried that USHE is going to not approve this. There are positions moving around which we don't want people to lose jobs for sure. But we do see positions, basically money shifting. And things like the CTL position, which I do not argue, we need faculty development here. And the Atwood position, I don't understand how those help our students with durable skills and these high demand jobs. So I think we need a much better justification for some of that to help us better understand why this fits into what the new law says we have to do. Because it does feel a little bit like maybe we're using the reallocation to do things that we need to do in other ways. So that's my big concern there.
Hello, I'm Tiffany Harding. I am actually recently hired as an ASL faculty member. I am working closely with several levels of administration trying to make that a viable program. So I understand that you are looking at numbers, and I wanted to just have some things on your radar. I wanted to know the 3 items that you mentioned that must be part of the reinvestment. We have to comply with all 3, the programs and all 3 of those, or can it just be 2? Would like to know more about that. And I would also like you to consider how you're measuring operational effectiveness. For ASL, you mentioned you have a lot of different ways that you want to build other programs. We have deaf consumers that are going to be going into those fields, and so the job market for those who are studying ASL, either working with somebody who is deaf so they can use their ASL skills or working with an interpreter, are going to be very high. You will want to build an asset that can come into your programs and interpret for those things. So I just, of course I'm speaking specifically to my program because it's very important to me, but I think that the discontinuation of that faculty line will have long-term outcomes that you haven't thought about, and I'm happy to meet with you or do whatever you need to talk about that. You've talked a lot about emphasis in psychology and mental health. That's where interpreters work. I understand that deafness is a low incident disability, but we are out there in all of those fields. As you can see, we didn't have live interpreters today. We had to bring them from out of state. So St. George is a really viable place for interpreting. And we have other programs across the state that are closing down their interpreting programs or their deaf studies programs. And so I think that actually leaving ours open is a possibility to recruit more students.
I'm Cheryl Kaplinger, Executive Director of Strategic Partnerships. And I want to say that while I'm disappointed that we have to go through all of this, I understand where we are. And on a personal note, as most of you know, if not all of you know, I'm already planning to leave by the end of calendar year 2025, as my spouse, Brandon Bruce, has a job at the University of Denver and is leaving the theater program. That being said, I think it's a shame for us to change the theater program from what it is now. I think that there are opportunities for our students beyond musical theater that align with what industry is looking for. And to echo the sentiments of my colleagues and what I've seen during my 4 years here at Utah Tech University is the need for durable skills. I have been noted and have been called one of the best connectors, not only here, but throughout the state. People say, how do I do it? And I do it because I'm a professionally trained theater person. I know people. And while some of the jobs might not look like they pay as much as an engineer or someone working in innovation, I can guarantee you they are. I'm going to miss all of you. As I say, I'm not planning to leave until the end of the calendar year, but I implore you to really look at this on the entirety of our students' needs. I know there's so much that we need to give them. I thank you so much for your time and for your dedication. I'm proud to have been a bison, a trailblazer. As I say, I'm here a while longer, but I'm an advocate for everyone here on this campus, especially our faculty. Thank you.
I am the production manager for event services. I also am an adjunct for the theater department. So I have two statements. I find it frustrating because I have two higher, sorry, we're trying to keep emotions out of it, but it's hard because they come up. I have 2 degrees in theater, 3 degrees in the arts. So it's frustrating that the state of Utah might not think I am viable. My degree in acting allows me to have a customer service voice. Hi, how are you? Thank you so much. Use it every day. I have a master's in costume and lighting design. I am currently the production manager. That is not what I went to school for. However, I am trained in theater, so I can do a multitude of things. This morning, Dean Lee and Tiffany helped us, in addition to Jay Wilson, set this up. Never in my life have I done this, but I can because I roll with it. That's what theater teaches you. So musical theater is fantastic. That is an in-demand thing. However, if we don't look at theater itself, if we don't provide Shakespeare and Tennessee Williams and all those other options, musical theater won't help. Also, musical theater requires more faculty and more support, like an accompanist that's on the payroll all the time. So I see the shift, I understand it, however, it's gonna require more. And right now, we're trying to make it smaller, and it's not gonna function. I hope to God it does, trust me. I hope it does. Because I am closely tied to the theater department with a husband that works as a faculty member. So I'm really invested in the College of the Arts. The second thing, because I want these students to also have a voice, these theater students. We have a program right now that supports documentaries on campus. What we don't have is documentaries, a class or anything like. I might be speaking out of turn, Patrick. I'd love for feedback if I am. We don't have a documentary program. So we have Doc Utah, which supports documentaries, but we don't have that tied to anywhere. So why do we have that? We have a full-time person that does that. Great, I love that opportunity, but why? If we could look at those things that don't support the classes, that also could be something that could be cut or reallocated somewhere else to allow a full-time faculty member or 2 full-time staff members. There could easily be that adjustment as well. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Amy. Hi, I'm David Perry. I'm a theater major. And my friend Ashley and I recently, we started a petition because we do believe that all of the arts are individual and unique. And we're really just asking that while I agree with this bill, we have to make changes, that we keep our departments, because like Amy said, there is a big difference between theater and musical theater. there is a big difference between dance and theater and musical theater. And I know there's a lot that you guys have to look at, and I also agree with, I don't remember your name, but the one who asked for the data. I would love to see that, because right now it is a decision that I don't have answers for, but my degree is getting affected because of something that I have not had a say in.
Hello, I am Ashley Chasted. I am currently set to graduate with a BA in acting in theater with an acting emphasis. So I am with David Perry, and yes, we made the Fine Arts petition. Last I checked at the beginning of this meeting, we have reached 568 signatures from students or people within our community saying that those signing this petition bear record that the arts are an absolute necessity and the College of the Arts is essential at Utah Tech University. We have also provided testimonials, and we are currently collecting more testimonials of students of why the arts are important for this university. Additionally, I want to make this very clear that this was very student-led. David Perry and I led this, so this is not from a push from any faculty within the theater department trying to save their jobs or whatever. We decided to make this decision without anything from them. I also want to make it very clear that this is a very affordable place to attend a college, and that's a very good thing about this college that I very much appreciate. And I want to make it very clear that as an artist, in order to cultivate, we have a right to go somewhere where it is affordable for us. And we have a right to do something that is not musical theater. Because there is lots of other things in addition to musical theater when it comes to theater and when it comes to dance. And yeah. I also want to make it clear that the arts is something that is even essential for STEM majors and people who are not within the arts. And the reasoning for me for that is in order to set yourself apart and to get jobs, you need to be well-rounded. Not only do you need to be well-rounded, but you also need to be different from the other people who are applying to jobs. And in order to be different, having something like theater on your resume will set you apart and will allow for people to have more jobs as STEM majors. I also want to make it clear that art allows for innovation. One thing that you guys are very much, it seems, into is innovation. And I want to make it very clear that many of the innovators within multiple careers stem from art. I also want to make it clear, you guys also mentioned that you're planning to increase the digital film department. The digital film department works very closely with the theater department. We are actors. Actors have to be on the camera. In order for that specific department to grow, we need to either keep the theater department where it's at or increase it, or else the digital film department will not grow. And that is one of your guys' goals. Additionally, I also want to say that I think that there is more to data that should be included when it comes to looking at theater and whatnot. I think that career success can be measured in many different ways, in ways that you guys have not looked at currently, at least just based on what you guys have said with what data you have looked at. I also do want to make it very clear that there has been much theater success from people at this university who are alumni. There has been an actress who starred in a film that won Best Director Indie Feature Film at the London Awards, as well as a Rising Star Award from the Desertscape International Film Festival. This was with a director from our film department. The associate producer and festivals coordinator, as well as the box office manager at Kayenta Center for the Arts in Utah here in St. George, they are alumni. I also would like, there's also the VFX producer at Crafty Apes in Georgia, Georgia, assistant production manager at Tuacahn Center for the Arts, performing arts technician for ETC as a lighting designer, director of events of technology for Encore in Dallas, Texas, motion capture scenic carpenter for 2K, the video game company in California, and there are many others. Those are very successful careers. And this is only a small list of successful students, successful alumni who have come from the theater department directly. I also would like to close with a quote from Stuart Brown, who is an MD, and he is very renowned as a scientist, as a medical doctor. So he said, "Play and the humanities help us attune to each other as individuals and as a culture. The arts are indicators of emotional intelligence, but they also produce emotional intelligence. They help us grow and adapt. Scientists may be slow to appreciate the actual advantages of the humanities, but as they probe a little deeper, they will see that the actors, painters, storytellers, and musicians are attractive because they strongly exhibit the play drive that defines our overall design as a creative species, and that we all must exercise to develop fully." Thank you for your time.
Of information I think is important, and it was kind of addressed a minute ago. Any program at the university that is discontinued, and this isn't just for this reinvestment, but for all programs under all conditions, we are required, and we of course would do it anyway, a teach out of a program. So it isn't the case where you end a program and then that's it on that day. It'll continue, the program will continue until all currently matriculated students have completed all their degree requirements to graduate. So that's something that we will do, and it's required, but we would of course do it even if it wasn't required. So anyway, I just want to let everybody know that any program that's discontinued would not just end on a particular date before we've had a chance to teach out that program. Okay, Robbie?
I'm Robert Matheson from the Department of Music, Associate Professor of Music Technology, double bass. The process that the state has established includes a feedback period. And from what I'm seeing with the numbers that you're showing us, it seems that you're trying to avoid feedback and to push through that and to please them immediately. The numbers, the amount that you show that you're planning on allocating, like redirecting, is $300,000 over almost what they're requiring. I'd like to encourage you to reconsider how you're representing the university to the state in that, and go through that process to allow them to give you feedback before, rather than trying to give them over and above what they're asking. I don't believe that it represents our university well and does not represent the value of Utah Tech University to our state.
Vice President Morris mentioned it earlier. What we've done is we have overestimated both cost reductions and we've overestimated reinvestments to provide an opportunity for our new president to weigh in and our cabinet and so forth. So there's flexibility. So yes, this cost reduction does exceed, but when the plan leaves this university to go to USHE, it will be at $2.55 million and not more. So we're not going to send out a proposal that looks at cost cuts beyond what we're required to do. So anyway.
There's been a lot of discussion about the discrepancy between the guidance that's in the letter of HB 265 and what you are hearing from the commissioner. And this is, if anybody can answer this now, I'd love to understand. The actual letter of that law is pretty broad, and it leaves a lot of room for us to cut things that are not on the table right now. And I'd like to understand why we're not pushing that. I think, the line we get is that we have been growing consistently for a long time, and that we are a lean university that doesn't need to cut things right now as we're growing. So I think if we could understand, and maybe Henry, maybe that's you, but I'd like to understand why we're not just putting everything outside of instruction right now. It's a hard moment because everybody's putting everybody else's neck on the chopping block. But because that's now happened, we're all seeing who's on the chopping block. I don't understand why sports does not exist in this list anywhere. I think that and this is not an attack on you. I know this is just where we're at now. We're so far in the process and we're so close to having to submit. We now have to kind of have these discussions. Musical theater, there is a large program that is well funded that does international trips that is not related to the College of the Arts. And sorry, Del, I have to point that out, but Fusion, that cannot exist while we're cutting things in theater and dance. It just doesn't make sense. Budgets. Say that again, Glenn.
That is faculty driven.
The other. Did I miss that, Glenn? Sorry.
I'll tweet about it.
Okay, thank you. There's other things too. It says other areas of campus or other parts of the institution. I think one thing we don't think about a lot either is just, I've spoken to facilities about our utility bills, just generally in a year. We could zero-scape every piece of grass on this campus and probably save a dean position in the College of the Arts. There's just so many other ways. So yeah, I just would love to understand if there's someone in your committee whose job it is to push back when you look at the letter of the law, and if the commissioner who comes back to you and says, oh, no, we won't accept that, whose job is it to say, but the law says we can? And I guess I want to know who's arbitrating what the commissioner tells you versus what the law says, and do we have legal support? Maybe Natalie, you could answer that, about why we would have to comply with something that is not in the law, but maybe coming from a back channel from the commissioner. Could anybody answer maybe any of that, at least in terms of how we're communicating back to the legislature right now, or to USHE?
The president will be the key person, of course, as you would expect. And so that will be the primary interface between any feedback that is provided and our response to that. So.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Patrick Smith in digital film.
My name is Jeff Allen. I'm in HHML, History, Humanities, and Modern Languages, and I kind of have 2 points. The first is kind of in our growth plan. What I'm not seeing is a discussion of how the fields we want to reinvest in contribute to the local job economy. I know one of the issues we have with the community at large, is what we're contributing to the local community. And I wonder if when we double down on some of these programs and then cut other programs, one of them is targeted at Spanish and Spanish education. We have a teacher shortage in Southern Utah, right? And we're gonna cut teaching positions that train teachers. How many new jobs do we have in marketing in this field if we're going to try to increase by 50% or 20%, whatever our target number is, marketing students? What does that look like? And if I'm proposing a new program, I have to have job data for the local community. And I'm not seeing that in this, it wasn't discussed. The second thing is, and this might just be kind of ignorance, but when you're talking about adjunct cuts, I come from a program, I'm in political science and history, where a huge chunk of our teaching is required state courses, and we don't have the faculty to meet those requirements. We see every single student at this university in their 4 years, and we have 5.5 full-time lines. If you cut adjuncts from us, you're not going to be cutting faculty or anything more really than student opportunity to take these classes and complete in a timely fashion. And that's another element of these cuts is it seems like we have certain programs on campus that have been left to wither on the vine and never really develop. And they're short on faculty. And we're reinvesting in programs that have been invested in instead of investing in the programs that help us meet the mission statement as a comprehensive regional university. We're not doing that. And it seems like we're failing in some of those places in this reinvestment plan, in my view. And I know that that's something that is echoed by many of my colleagues. Thank you.
My name is Mike Cartmill, and I'm in Spanish. I'd just like to first say thank you for the committee. You're not in an enviable position, I don't think, and I'm sure your job is a hard job to do, and I appreciate your time. I am a little bit, I would like to know the finances behind the number of programs that you're discontinuing. They don't seem to align with the faculty changes that you're showing. What costs are being saved by just getting rid of a major if you still have the faculty there? I would like to see that data, especially any USHE data that you might have that does look at Spanish, mine particularly, but I saw a list of majors that are being discontinued, and I just don't understand why and how that saves money. It's not in the numbers up there, so obviously it's somewhere else, and I think most of us who have majors that are being discontinued would like to see that information. Thank you.
I just want to second the thoughts about zero-scaping utilities in sports. I think those are great things to look into. I know our university is interested in, I think, what's been called desert tech and sustainability long-term in a desert. And I mean, I see waste all over the place with our utilities and grounds upkeep, and I think it's really realistic long-term to look into those things so that we can sustain our university in a desert landscape as things continue to warm. So thank you. I'm Lisa Scott in psychology.
My name is John Wolf. I am the chair of History, Humanities, and Modern Language. Yes, you are. I am tied. I am responsible for 2 of the 3 lines that you all will be proposing to cut. I have 4 questions or 4 points. Point 1, in your discussion about the reasons behind ending majors, you said that the reason behind it was essentially financial, that you're reallocating funds. But when we look at the current state of our faculty that exists and operates existing majors, there will be 0 monetary gain in removing these majors. So you're not saving any money by ending the Spanish degree or the ASL degree with current existing faculty. 2, as was pointed out by one of my colleagues, every single ASL program in the state of Utah is being discontinued. I could point to the possibility of the economic opportunity we have, but rather I want to appeal to the ethical side of things. Namely, we are dealing with a group of disenfranchised, disabled individuals, and we are eliminating an opportunity to engage and allow them to communicate with the world at large. I think that there's a failure of us as a comprehensive university on that front. 3, in all of the elements about reallocation, the question comes to mind, if we are going to be developing programs like engineering, which is admittedly a good consideration, how are we going to catch students who do not make the grade, quite literally? That we have the opportunity to shore up several programs at this institution who might provide opportunities to retain students outside of their proposed initial major of engineering or some of the hard sciences. And the humanities and arts can be that umbrella if we can continue to exist. And 4th, we are a comprehensive university. We are a comprehensive university. I may not be able to say inclusive anymore, but I can say that we are a comprehensive institution. I think that part of this goal should be to think about what a comprehensive university is. We will not have a modern language degree with this plan moving forward. Can we authentically call ourselves a comprehensive institution with the cuts that is being proposed? No. But I understand that I would ask that the group weigh heavily the cost of what these cuts actually mean, not just in terms of monetary value, but in terms of impact to the immediate community as well as to underrepresented and disabled individuals. We are not necessarily a business. We are a university.
Mike Nelson, Director of Student Belonging. Two concerns. One is that the money and efforts that was made for the America First Performing Arts Center, by cutting art program, it implies almost a slap in the face to the community, to the donors, to the people where they have invested their money into the renovation of a building, upwards of tunes of $5 million just from America First, in addition to the $28 million from the legislator and $1.3 from the Washington County and community members. It seems like we're operating in bad faith, that we are saying we want this performance building, but we're going to cut the programs. In addition to that, I think that the athletic program is something that, because of the NCAA's name, image, and likeness, that we become a point where athletics might not be as viable in the future, because we don't have the ability, we don't have the money to pay our athletes, our high-performing athletes who will go to other places because they have the money to pay those athletes. And so I think that's something that we need to consider when we look at how is this supporting the students and how is it bringing the goals of the university. Thank you.
My name is Robert Carlson. I'm a former Faculty Senate President. I'm a current professor in psychology and Associate Dean in the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. And I would like to ask make some observations about things that have already been said and point out something about the makeup of the committee. The majority of the cuts that are proposed are from academics. All of the reallocation is in academics. A minority of this reallocation committee is from academics. And it seems like there's been a disproportionate focus on academics from people who don't have the insights into the nuances of academic. I think that's what's been pointed out here, is that there are subtle details about programs that I don't think are being fully appreciated by people who are outside of the academic realm. There's the potential for maintaining this regional comprehensive university status by looking more broadly than what has been done here. The academic cuts all come from the proposed merged Humanities, Social Sciences, and Arts College. There are no other cuts from any other part of campus academically. And that seems to be short-sighted and reflect things like we're not looking at programs in other colleges that might overlap. That would be a source of inefficiency, not just inefficiency within one program, but inefficiency where multiple programs might perform very similar functions, and one could be dropped to make one unified program instead of having two separate programs. It doesn't seem like those things were considered. And I think that's because there's a lack of awareness and understanding of the broad nature of the academic programs across campus, because the majority of your committee are not from academics. And I think we can do a better job. Thank you.
It's true. This is a committee that is a cross-campus committee, but it has been the case since almost the beginning of, well, from the beginning of January, that these conversations, a lot of conversations, continuous, everyday conversations have been happening in cross-academic affairs. So there's been a lot of academic input into what we're talking about today. It just filters to the committee from myself and the members of the committee that are from academic affairs. So just so you know that there's been a lot of involvement by the Council of Deans and all of the unit leaders that we have in academic affairs. So they've had an opportunity to see these, to discuss them, and to contribute.
Hello, my name is Melissa Dodge. I'm a part-time faculty member here in the ASL program. I also work as a supervisor at our local deaf center within St. George. This is the first time that I have heard about a potential program cut, and it's very concerning to me. As a member of the deaf community and a representative of our deaf center, we do a lot of collaboration with your university. We have students from this university going to our community center. We focus strongly on that collaboration. If you cut this program and we do not have any ways to develop our interpreters, we will create an even greater need of interpreters within the St. George community. And so I'm speaking as a member of the deaf community, saying that you are impacting worldwide decisions that will negatively affect me, and that is very concerning. We have potential to have deaf and hard of hearing students on campus, and if you cut an interpreting program, I don't see any opportunity for those students to grow and have collaborations, as well as increase our interpreter pool. I do see our deaf population continuing to grow, and I see a lot of people interested in moving to St. George. And so I just want you to recognize that the interpreting program has effect on the community, and the community has an effect on this program. So thank you for your consideration.
A point of clarification: on the list is the Bachelor of Arts in ASL, but the intent is to continue to offer the certificate program at the lower level. So that we didn't cut both, just the bachelor's degree, which right now has only a couple of students enrolled in it. So, but the lower division certificate program is strongly enrolled, and that would stay. But I do know also that Utah State is looking at this program as well, and probably even UVU. So, Sarah?
Hello, I'm Sarah Gallo, and I'm full-time faculty in dance and currently ending my second term as chair of the Department of Theater, Dance, and Digital Film. I'm also finishing up my 13th year here at Utah Tech, and have seen our institution grow and change in multiple ways. Part of that has included recruiting faculty that are at the height of their profession in our department. We also have young programs in our department that we're continuing to build. And I would just advocate for those faculty, as well as our students, who those faculty are empowering every day and helping them to go out and be successful in their fields or related fields. Thank you.
I just want to let you know that in a couple of minutes, all of our deans will leave. It's nothing personal. We have a candidate on campus for the Dean of Library, and they all have to go participate in the interview. So anyway, just so you know, they're not leaving because they're mad or want to go someplace else.
Thank you. I'm Glenn Webb. I apologize for shouting out in the meeting. Wasn't very demure, but I want to clarify that reducing faculty forces in theater and keeping fusion is just the oddest thing I think I've heard in some time. The faculty voice, it was presented that musical theater was faculty driven. I am ignorant of that faculty motivation to make that happen. Faculty would like to see those resources that go to Fusion and other places around campus that reflect the arts be spent in the arts. That's efficiency. We have redundancy that we need to eliminate.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dottie Catlin. I'm over the Office of Career Services Executive Director. I know this decision is hard, and we're also a business, and in business, decisions are hard. But what I see is a lot of reactive play with people leaving or people retiring, and obviously following the criteria of the plan itself with unenrolled or low enrolled programs and programs that are needed in the industry, with which I, of course, support as the person over career services and have that placement information as well. What I don't see is us looking at Utah Tech University as a system and, you know, how are we going to be successful into the future? And I've written all the forms. I've written Michael, who's my supervisor, but I know in my world, other universities in Utah are getting a career coach per college, for example. I know that other universities have a division of student success and student engagement. And if we are really a student-centered, student-focused university, helping and serving in our roles to make an impact in this community and beyond, what are we doing in this plan to ensure that we are making the students successful here in their journey, hopefully more towards a 4-year journey and not a 6-year journey? And then most importantly, how are they going to be successful in this community and beyond that we love so much? And I don't see that. I see one academic advisor. I see no career coaching. I see no student success. You know, faculty, I agree that we need more full-time faculty. I agree that's an image that we want to improve, that ratio. You know, I am going to do my best with my staff to make sure that of the programs that we're sending students out to, that we create them to be prepared and successful out in the industry. But as a system, you know, what are we all doing? How can we all be involved in ensuring that these students love it here, they stay here? I mean, they're not always staying here, and we need to create the durable skills that they need and make sure that they not only get hired, but that they don't get fired out in the industry as well. So we're creating talent pipelines that, you know, are upping in the status, and companies are coming here to Utah Tech to hire our students because of the programs that we're putting out there and the staff and the faculty that are ensuring that they can be successful out in our world. So I want to hear more of the story, like what's going to happen in 5 years? How are we going to be successful and continue to grow? And we're at this transition point where we have a new president coming in who's very lively and upbeat. We have a opportunity, well, we're going to create a new strategic plan. Is that going to be a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 7-year plan? But we're at this transition point where we have an opportunity to create our next story as Utah Tech University, I think, and that has a lot to do with success.
Hello, my name is Mia Chamberlain, and I'm an undergraduate in dance. I would like to echo the thoughts that the arts are not monolithic. They're not just one department, but they're separate and they have their own realms. David and Ashley mentioned how theater and musical theater are totally separate realms. Well, dance and musical theater are also separate realms as well. Do they relate to each other? Absolutely, but in their own realms, they are separate and they need attention and opportunity to thrive, not just as one category. I know that myself and other classmates that I have feel deterred to come back because if we don't receive the opportunities and the attention that we need to thrive in our department, and we're just thrown into one big category, then we feel deterred to not come back. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Weber. I'm in the dance program. I have just been elected as incoming chair for theater, dance, and digital film, and I'm in my 6th year. So here we are on April 25th, which is 2 weeks away from all full-time faculty being off contract. And to hear that this plan was begun last fall is slightly disheartening, because besides rumors and conversations that I have initiated, we are here 9 months later, which ironically is almost long enough to grow a child. And as a mother, I will say that the time that I spent preparing to be a mother, not knowing what that meant, was vital, because otherwise I would not have been prepared to be a mom and to continue to be a mom. So, as a faculty member that feels like I have been left in the dark, and then we are here today getting all of this information, there are a lot of assumptions being made. Assumptions being made that faculty will remain to teach out programs, that faculty will be on board with changes, that faculty will be on board with the mission of this institution. Faculty, in many instances, are first responders to students, but today, some of us as faculty are the last people to be hearing some of this. And that's, if you were to find out today that you're having a child tomorrow, you would also be freaking out.
Hi, my name is John Terry. I'm in the theater program. You'll have to forgive me if I get a little stumble in my words. I'm an actor. I'm used to having a script. But listening to the students and to my fellow faculty in dance, they are separate things. And we are looking right now for 3 different faculty. But in that search, we're looking for a crossover. We're looking to see how we can work more with digital film, work more with dance, not eliminate them, not become one focused thing like musical theater, but see how we can broaden those avenues. Because arts does need to be valued. It does need to be held sacred. And it was mentioned that I just don't know how we saw some of the reallocation talk about recruitment. And I don't know how we can recruit if we're losing a faculty line. We need that faculty line. And it was also mentioned that Kevin Costner is building a studio around here. And you'll have to forgive me if it's a little corny, but from his movie, it is, if you build it, they will come. It is not the reverse. So in order to get them, we have to have these faculty lines. We have to have a strong program. We want to work with the other programs that are growing, and not just in the arts, but outside the arts. And it was mentioned, too, how valuable the arts are in other areas. My wife is a musical theater major from Weber State, but she now works at a very high-level investment company in Salt Lake as one of their vice presidents. And the reason, she has no finance background, but the reason she was able to elevate so fast was because of her background in the arts. So thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nancy Hauk. I'm Associate Provost for our Academic Community Engagement. I want to thank everyone for being here and for your investment in our campus. And for you as the committee, I know this was a really difficult task, and I don't think you feel comfortable today. But I want to echo the question that Dr. Aaron O'Brien asked about transparency. And how many of you on the committee, did you all see all the data? Did you all see the data about efficiency on campus to make those decisions? Because I think we here sitting would like to see that. And I know I haven't seen any of it, and I'm at most of the meetings. And was the efficiency looked at campus-wide, meaning across campus in every department, in every area, not just in academics? because I know I've been here for 32 years. We have been short-handed with faculty in general education as long as I've been here. And I don't see any full-time positions coming there. And I think we are underserving our students when we continue this ratio of, like we've looked at, like you reported, Jen and Julie, in the Faculty Senate, that we have such a poor percentage of our classes taught by full-time faculty. 38% taught by full-time faculty. We have got to address this. It's bigger than just reallocation. This is about the culture here on our campus, in our community, for us faculty members, also myself as an administrator who still is a full-time faculty status. We need to look at the culture, and what our community sees is that we're not serving our students with full-time faculty, and that is going to hurt us as an academic institution. And so we need to look at those numbers. I would ask to see the data. I'm a quantitative person. I can do a great job making decisions when you give me the data, but I don't think you've done that. And I think we're getting your conclusions. I don't know that we've seen the data. And if you haven't, every single person on the committee hasn't had the data, I question how you would come to your conclusions without looking at a campus-wide efficiency of use of funds, use of resources, and how we can improve the culture of academics here on our campus, because that's what students come here for. Thank you, though, for your time. I hope that we can have that information. I would like to see it. I think I could support you if I have the data that supports your decision. And I think most of the people here would if they had the data. And so, thank you.
Hello, hello. Hey, there we go. Hi, my name is Sam New. I study in the College of Education as an individualized studies major, and I'm the vice president of academics for the Utah Tech Student Association. I don't like being the center of a room like this, but I felt like it was my job to come up and represent students and their perspective with academics. First of all, thank you guys so much for all the work that you're doing. It's a frustrating topic, it's a frustrating situation. At the end of the day, we look in this room, we're all trailblazers. You guys are just, you know, we just gave you probably the hardest job in academics right now with this bill. So thank you. Really appreciate all the work. I know we all do. I have a minor in music, and so it's been awesome to do all that. And I know it's kind of confusing to see some changes with this merger. I think with academics, any change that happens always comes with questions and confusion. That's why we're all here. That's why we're all academics, because we ask questions. I, for one, have worked with a lot of you on this board. I trust in a lot of these decisions, and I understand that some of that comes from my personal perspective as you as people. And at this board, I think the last point we just made was huge, was this data and this information. I think that we all have the same goal. I don't think you guys all came up here and was like, all right, let's cut Spanish and ASL. Like, that's what we want to do. Obviously not. I think that there was some data or some decision making. We weren't all in the room for that. I understand that's happening all across the state as well. As a student and as somebody who's the vice president of academics and kind of looks into this, the student perspective, a lot of students transfer or leave Utah Tech. One of the biggest reasons for that is our lack of academic programs. I think we've grown a ton these past few years, and we still have peers transfer or leave or go somewhere else because we don't offer those programs at Utah Tech. Thank you. I think that cutting these programs, I think it shows a message a little bit that we're kind of taking a step back from that. And I understand that not very many students are in these programs. And when it affects our friends, even if the number is small, it still affects us as students. I, for one, trust you all in this decision. I think to kind of show that this was a necessary step to show that an academic institution has to cut academic programs despite our direction and growth. I think we need to know the why it's necessary. Show us the data, show us the other options, because everyone here is saying, oh, look at this program, look at that. I understand that you guys all have already done that. We just don't see it here at this presentation. We don't see it here yet. You guys have been meeting at this forever. Like Provost just said, you'll meet with faculty and people in academic affairs every day on this. It's not like you've made all these considerations. Just reflect that to us so we, on the academic side, can see your decision making step by step, why you couldn't cut certain programs. And if you didn't consider those, consider them now, so that we kind of get a better understanding of like the why we're going towards cutting academic programs. So thank you all so much.
Hello, can you hear me? I'm back here at the back because my mobility is not great, so they gave me a mic back here. My name is Dr. Judy Scott. I'm over the College of Nursing, I'd like it to be college, no, the Department of Nursing, and I'm a representative of the College of Health Sciences. And something I want, we've talked a lot about my other fellow trailblazers and cuts and things in the arts, but the cut that they're suggesting here is for a program that's the first in the nation. So I don't know if you are aware that the cut in our college has to do with a program that is nowhere else found in the nation. It's an innovative project for our EMTs to move forward and get where they need to go in a quicker manner. It has been approved and it has been highlighted as a great accomplishment. But because of the lack of funds for that department, that is one of the programs that's being cut, which I think is sad that an innovation that has happened here, we're the first in the nation to do it, is being cut. And that's kind of sad. I'm not talking because I'm a nursing student, because I'm a nursing person, but because I'm representing the College of Health Sciences. I appreciate your hard work. I know somebody said we're just hearing about it. I've been hearing about it for months, but I understand you couldn't make any definitive plans until after the legislature had function, and that was just recent. So I understand why we're just hearing about it now, and I understand that we need to realize that this is our communication. This is the first communication. This isn't the last communication, but the first. And I appreciate all of you on the stand and how hard you've worked to make this work well. But I hope that everybody understands how important it is that this innovation that has only happened here, is the first across the nation, is being cut because of finances.
So yes. I've never been accused of being a quiet person. No, it's true. I think earlier I got excited. I wanted to follow Cheryl because we're theater people, we're passionate, but I can tell you all the people in here are pro Utah Tech trailblazers. We're excited, we're passionate for this school. So that's why we're all hyped up and ready and just spicy today. So thank you for being up there. It is hard to stand in front of people. It is, one would say, like theater. I just wanted to point out two more things. As the production manager, when I started 4 years ago, I had two stagehands that worked for me. Two people, and Jay Wilson and Austin Burns, who is in the booth. Austin, who's graduating next week for a degree in theater. Incredibly proud of that kid. I had two. This year, we started the academic year with 35 stagehands. 35. Crazy, right? So of those 35, I employ 16 College of the Arts students to where they can learn in the classroom and apply it firsthand. And many of you on this stage have had events that we have put on with production with those students. It is incredibly important to be able to have a flexible job that you can learn and apply. And as someone that has gone to school and played that, I don't know, maybe it can work like a Target or something, it's not fun. You need someone that can be flexible, and I am so proud of our event services department so that we can afford that opportunity to students. My boss, Wesley Petty, is also here, and I am always bragging to him, and I hope that he's bragging to Paul, which I'm pretty sure he is, about how amazing we are with the flexibility and the opportunities we're giving students on this campus. Second thing, I'd just like to point out, we're in the home of theater and dance. We are on the main stage, which houses theater and dance. Theater has graciously gone to the black box while the AFPAC is under renovation. So we are so lucky as production in our Airbnb, if you will, until the AFPAC opens. But this is the home of theater and dance. And so I think it's only fitting to be talking about this issue here. But again, thank you for this opportunity, but it is hard to sit in front of people. Theater is anywhere and everywhere by definition of theater. So just wanted to point those two things out, and sorry again for coming up for the second time.
Greg Melton from Earth and Environmental Sciences. One comment, one request. The first comment is if we are concerned about durable skills, EMT, an advanced EMT program, has got to be one of the top durable skill programs out there. And I realize that there are other programs that teach that program locally, but as somebody that works in that industry, the quality of the graduates that have come from Utah Tech has been superior to the other programs offered. And that's despite the lack of support and faculty in that program and how they've managed to patch things together and make things work for a number of years. So I find that to be quite a tragedy. The request I have is I'd be really curious to know exactly how large the operating budget is for UMAC and why that wasn't looked at as far as cuts, especially considering that they charge departments, the academic side for what they do. We talked about how Utah Tech is a system. That is one part of this community that doesn't really feel like it's a part of the system. It feels more outside and against what we're trying to accomplish. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your time today and for hosting us here for this town hall. My name is Jackie Beth, or JB for short. I'm on dance faculty, and this is my second year here. We've been working with the dance students, and I just want to take a moment to brag because they are a part of the public-facing part of this institution, just like theater. So people come to the institution to see shows and then figure out, oh, I might want to also major in science or something because I've been on this campus before. I'm familiar with the campus. I've seen places. I've been here. But 2 out of the 3 Research in a Minute contest winners were dance majors. So yay. So across the institution, all of the submissions, 2 of those went to dance. We had a distinguished undergraduate researcher that presented on this stage last week and did a fantastic job. And then for the Utah Academy of Science, Arts, and Letters, the only 2 Utah Tech abstracts that were invited to present were from dance majors. So from across the institution, we were represented by undergraduate students, only by dance majors. So other programs are doing great things too. I don't want to take away from that, but dance has got some really unique things it's able to offer to this community, and it's representing really well in the qualitative and creative research that they're doing. So I just want to brag on our students and mention some of their achievements.
Nobody else is going to get up. Hi, Erin again, Biology and Community Engaged Learning. To echo and to expand on some comments from some of the folks in the audience already, as we're talking about these durable skills and we're talking about what our students need to be competitive, There is a program, and someone on the committee is heavily involved in it, as is academics, this Active Learning, Active Life Experience program, which is really designed to develop a lot of the programs and the skills and to support all academic units. That seems like something that might be beneficial to add to this plan. We don't currently have any real funding for it except for what comes from Student Affairs. But for those of you who don't know, this includes Study Away, which basically cultural competency, research, career and professional development, and sorry, but it is a little self-interested, but community engaged learning. And a lot of these programs have very little, if any, ongoing funding. And so we do hear from employers and from professional programs that our students sometimes struggle with these skills that they need, the critical thinking, the communication, and that's across the board. So I do wonder why that's not up here if we're really looking at durable skills. So thank you.
I'm Hazel Sainsbury, Director of Equity Compliance and Title IX Coordinator. Just a comment. Value of education. I think my husband and I have been one of the biggest benefactors of Utah Tech University. Used to be Dixie State. I mean, I remember when Jen Chacho was doing a project with Doug on peppers and aphids so that he could get research for his bachelor's degree. I remember taking a psychology class from Dr. Carlson, Erin O'Brien mentoring my husband and I. We've been benefactors of this place. And I care very much about the mission. I don't think I would have left 12 years in the corporate world to come play around in this sandbox if I didn't think it was valuable. And so I come from a place where in the corporate world you make tough decisions, but also growing up in South Africa, you make very tough decisions. And I think sometimes we can be a little homogenous in terms of how we get to our decision making, who we include in the room. And I think a lot of the sentiments that you're hearing are folks feeling like maybe we would have liked to be a little closer to the flames just so we can feel the same confidence and warmth that you feel about the plan, which is, I think, completely fair and maybe a great way for a model for the future to say, if the decisions are really important, let's not limit who we have in the room when we make them, just so we can manage how they're rolled out or materialized. And I think one of the things that I noticed coming here from the corporate world is the lack of dissent. I think there's a lack of dissent, and you start to see many, many committees comprising of the same people, because guess what? If you dissent, you're recognized pretty early, and you're not part of that decision-making process, because ultimately everyone has an idea of how that thing is supposed to be produced. So I would say that trusting our community with data is really important. Dashboards are great, but if you don't have access to that dashboard, and I know you do a lot of work, Nicodemus, for those dashboards, I think let's trust people. I think they're very intelligent. We're an academic institution, and also we care very much about education, and I think the value of having an underprivileged student like myself connect with a professor who cares about the work and the research that they've been doing is really, really vital. My husband Doug would not have had an opportunity to do research had Jen Chacho not come up with this plan for this pepper plant aphid thing, and our house smelled of peppers for like the longest time. But it was important. It was somebody going out to make it good, to manage the one. And I think sometimes that's the hard part. We have our values and they look really great on PowerPoints, but what are we doing to manage the one? And I think that's what you're hearing from our students. That's what you're hearing from our faculty and staff, to say, we're the front lines of this work that we say is really, really important. So what are we doing to actually support it and not detract from it? What are we doing to ensure that we're investing in people, not in structures and systems? And so we appreciate the work that you do, and it's a tough time, and it's not great sitting up here hearing everybody say how terrible this is, but we understand, and I think it's important for us to remember who we are, what our values are, and what we can do to actually support the one, and the one is the student. And so thank you for your time.
I just thought that the adjunct cuts went by really fast, and I think we need to know more about that. That has always been something that we pay so much less than everybody else on, and so it seems like that's a dangerous place to cut even more when we're so dependent on it. Thank you. I'm Sarah Black. I'm in chemistry.
I'll comment on that. I can provide a little more detail. So the part-time instructor pool of money that we have really funds two different things. It funds part-time instructors who are in the classroom, and it also funds, as a result of that, non-instructional release time for faculty to engage in administrative duties and responsibilities that are not instruction. And so it's a roughly, I think it's close to about $6 million budget right now. And so when we looked at what the money was being used for pretty closely, very closely actually, there were places where we have release time being given outside of university policy and excessive university policy. So that's one thing. The other area is that most of the programs that we listed that were being cut are taught by part-time instructors. So as a result of eliminating the programs, then we're not teaching the classes associated, some of them, not all, some of the classes associated with those programs. So there'll be budget savings there. We are looking at some savings in the FAST program, which is the physical activity program, run out of the Department of Health and Human Performance, that the numbers of students has declined recently, and so there's clearly an opportunity to reduce the funding in that program, which is about $25,000 by itself. So it's really a combination of lots of things and spread across the college, all the colleges. It's roughly 2.7% of the overall budget of the part-time instructor pool, but that includes lots of different kinds of things. We were paying for things also. We were paying for things with money in that budget that is inappropriately being paid for using those budget lines. And so there are other sources that should have been used. So finding those kinds of things. So it's a wide variety, and eventually when we do submit the document to USHE, which Bryant will have to prepare, it will have to go line by line, and it will be detailed, and it will provide the kind of detailed information that you're asking for. So.
Spencer Bell, psychology. What you just mentioned, the line-by-line breakdown, will we see that before it goes to USHE? I feel like there are a lot of things that are very high level, and it would be nice to see exactly the breakdown of the cost savings and where exactly it's going.
Yeah, I assume we'll be doing that.
Diana Reese, chemistry. I just want to follow up on that same thing related to seeing all those items on the budget, but also with, you mentioned this will all go into place with a new policy. Will that policy follow the regular policy procedures where it goes and it's open for public comment and we're able to be a part of that revision process, or is that something that will just be listed as a published policy after President Smead has approved it?
Yes. Yes, it'll be, we have to move very quickly. There's no, the process for approving a policy takes, as you all know, takes a good bit of time that we don't have. And so, yes, it'll be, I don't know where it is right now, to be honest. I'm not involved with it, but I don't know where it is in the process of public comment and review. But it'll move fairly quickly because we're required to have this policy in place almost immediately. So, yes, it will be something that President Smead will have to sign off on when he arrives. If there are no other questions, it doesn't mean you can't continue to ask questions after the meeting ends and others that you are your colleagues that weren't able to attend. The portal is still open that Vice President Morris mentioned earlier. So if you've got additional questions, comments, suggestions, you can certainly upload those or send those through that portal. And, you know, obviously the members of the committee here, you all work with them. You can provide input to them directly. So there's still additional opportunities. We will look at, as a committee, at all the feedback from today. We are meeting next Thursday morning at 7 a.m., our usual time, to review that. But very soon after that, by the following week, we need to have a copy of a complete proposed plan reviewed by the cabinet, and then on to President Smead, who will be here by then. So, committee, do you have anything else? Paul, do you have, Henry? Any members of the committee? Okay. Well, again, thank you all so much for spending your time with us today. It was great information. I've written it down. I'm sure others have recorded it, and we've got a permanent recording through the video, so we'll go back and review it and present it to the committee on Thursday. So, again, thank you all. Have a great weekend.
Come on.